Hello, everyone, and welcome to ReGen Talks. We have been having an incredible conversation with child development specialist Jacque Eatmon. And you know how it is when we get talking. Sometimes we just go and go and go, and it was so good we didn't want to cut it off. So tonight, we're going to introduce part three of When Parenting Hurts. We hope that you enjoy the episode. And remember, if you have any questions, please send them over to us. We would love to engage with you. Now, When Parenting Hurts, part three. Something else we talk about in our parenting classes, we cover four parenting styles: negligent, authoritarian, permissive, and effective. Um, and I know that you are familiar with those styles. Let's start with negligent parenting. Okay.
Right.
Negligent parenting. Okay. Uh, there it is. Negligent parenting. I love that. All right. So I'm going to ask, what is the root word to negligent?
Neglect.
Yeah, neglect. All right. Now, keeping that in mind, you tell me, as a child development specialist and someone who's worked with families, forever too, tell me what you or how you characterize negligent parenting. How do
Oh,
you define
negligent parenting for me is parents that aren't engaging with their children. They're just allowing them to do whatever they would like to do. There's not boundaries that are
it?
set. It get manifests itself in um, not having food, shelter, clothing as well, and and today, I want to also throw in during this COVID period, it can be educational neglect as well too, because with parents having to be the educators, the teachers for their children
Mhm.
now, a lot of parents just don't have the skill set or the time to be able to be those teachers. So a lot of educational neglect, I think, is going on right now, and how unfortunate that is right now. But it's not being able to put in the time. Sometimes I think it can be just being very selfish. I think it can be being very selfish and just taking care of self and not the children or the family.
Okay. Okay. Um, you said that, and I can tell you something else that's jumping off right now in society is an issue with addiction and substance abuse.
Yes,
And that right there, and let me just encourage anybody who's walking through that, get some help. Get some help.
hmm
That is not something that
hmm
you can easily, you know, overcome alone. And it's also something that will take a parent off his or her game
yes,
because you become focused on just whatever the drug of choice is, and
right,
everything else falls by the wayside. You can try to function, but you don't function well, and then eventually it gets to the point where you're not functioning at all. And yeah, when you're trying to parent through that, the kids get lost in it. you know
yes, they do.
they they,
Very
they
much
get
so.
lost. and
Very
and
much
I'm
so.
seeing that right now, and a lot of the families um, in my sphere, professionally speaking, are dealing with that. And it's not that the parents don't love their children. That's not it. They love their children.
Right,
But
right,
in the case of the addiction, that has taken them, you know,
right,
out of their role,
right.
So they
That's
catch
good
cases
point.
for neglect. Yeah.
Good point.
All right. So, all right, so negligent parenting. Next, we talk about authoritarian parenting. Authoritarian parenting. Now, I love authoritarian parenting. Going back to what I like to do, breaking down words. What is the root word of authoritarian?
Authority.
hmm Authority. Um, and that is true. I think parents are to be the authorities
Yes,
in the
yes,
household. But tell me about authoritarian parenting. Um,
Do what I say, when I say do it, how I say do it. Don't question what I say to do. I'm in charge. I pay the bills. You just do what I say to do. They've lost about teachable moments. They've lost about coaching and disciplining, and it's just punishment. And um, because I said do it.
hmm Yeah. Um, yeah. And there are so many people who I'm sure are going to hear that and go, okay, and yeah,
And,
that's how.
and, and, because I'm in charge and I pay the bills, and you living in my house, and
Oh,
right,
geez. Yeah.
right.
So, what can happen though with authoritarian parenting? And we really, uh, yeah, what can happen if that's how you are running your household?
I I think it crushes self-esteem a lot. It
Mhm.
crushes your self-esteem. You don't feel like you have choices.
Mm.
Um, you may not
And
feel like,
once again, I hear parents going, "They don't.
ah, but
You
I
don't have
want
any
them to
choice."
have choices. I want them to have choices. In the end, um, I am the final authority. But if I can lean, I want to lean. If I can lean,
Mhm,
I want to lean. And
mhm,
yeah, authoritarian parents get it
mhm,
done. When I say hop, hop, fast, quick. Don't let me come back here and it's not done. I think
mhm,
it does. It crushes self-esteem. It doesn't give you choices.
mhm. And this is true, and it also can lead to I don't know, I guess a bumping of heads, definitely. And what
Yeah,
I hear people saying, just like I was talking about, I heard some dads or this one dad online talking about it, how sons or kids in general, I think, they get to a point where they smell themselves. And so then
hmm,
it becomes, this who's the stronger.
right.
But that is not necessarily how one needs to keep their position of authority by beating anyone that you think is threatening or questioning that authority. No, it's teaching and garnering their authority or garnering their respect.
Right,
Not
and
through.
respect is the big word. Respect
That's
is the
it.
big word. I
That's it.
listened to
Not
some
fear.
parents talk
Not
about,
fear.
and they said, and I was having some kind of discussion with parents,
Hmm.
and I have to say, I had not heard this until I had been long, 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 long time in my career. But I heard two different families say this, and they said, "Well, if you don't say those kinds of things, how are you going to make them afraid of you so they can do what you say?" And I
There
was
it
like,
is.
wow. I
Yeah.
said, wow, I had never heard of that. But I realize it's very, very much a mindset of parents. You have to make your
Yeah.
children afraid of you so that they can do what you say to do. And I said, there's another way. There's another
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah.
so let's do that. How about garnering respect? And so, the child, when you
Mhm.
say what can happen, it's like, when you're that authoritarian parent, they don't respect you. And
Mhm.
so they want to be respected. They don't feel like you're respecting them. And so you get those bumping of heads and everything. That's when you
Mhm.
also get children leaving the homes early. That's when
Mhm.
you also, if they're not respecting your authority, what happens when they go out in the community as it relates
That's
to
right.
police, as it relates to their bosses? I've
That's
heard
right.
people, it's like they're at work and somebody told them what to do. And so some thoughts start coming back of when they were at home and they jumped up in their boss's face, and now you don't have a check to collect. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. That is key. It is not a respect that is fear based, because many people think that that's a show of respect if someone is scared, is afraid of you.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's just straight up fear. And what that means is when you're not around, they're going to do what they want to do
Right.
because, they're going to take that chance that you're not going to find out. And you know what I'm saying? So the lesson, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the lesson is that we've been trying to teach, doesn't take hold unless we're in the room. And then it hasn't taken hold because as soon as we're out of the room, they'll do whatever they want.
And
You know what
so,
I mean?
yeah. And what I say is, you want your children to be able to do what you
Mm.
expect rather than what you have to inspect.
Insight. Ah, that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly right. That's excellent. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
is it. Um, so before we move on to the next parenting style, I do want to go back because we didn't talk about with the negligent parenting what the outcomes would be for negligent parenting. What if a child is growing up in a household where they're not cared for? Other than if it's really serious and CPS gets involved and the children are
Yeah.
removed.
Yeah.
But if it's not, if it doesn't have CPS involvement, and a child does not feel cared for or does not feel loved or does not feel protected by boundaries and rules, what can
Yeah.
happen in that
It's
case?
all of that. They don't feel protected. They
Mm.
don't feel loved. Um, they don't feel like they have a voice.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
they feel like, and as you say, they could go, it can become a CPS case or something. Just the immediate needs of you're neglected, so you don't have a place to stay. You may become
Mhm.
homeless, um, may not have food. Um,
Right.
if you don't have adequate clothing, that can lead to teasing if you're in school,
Okay.
lowering of self esteem.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
And at times, the child can also become the caregiver, instead of being cared
definitely,
for, which
definitely.
which leads to a loss of even developmentally, an
Hmm.
opportunity to actually experience each stage of development in order to learn what you need to learn appropriately, you
And
know.
then I mean, what about the situation, if their needs aren't being met and I'm
Hmm.
hungry or I need to get some money or something for something in school, then that
Yeah,
might start stealing,
there you
um,
go. There you go.
so I
And
can
you
have my
tend to
needs met.
That's it. And that opens up the door even for predators, to step
Yes,
in.
yes,
Let me take care of you.
right,
Let me do this for you.
right.
And then that feels like love, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's not necessarily.
And predators know that and they prey on that
Exactly.
type. They prey
Exactly.
on that
That
type.
is what is happening, and that's a whole other show that we need to do.
They can identify them.
Parents need to be aware. All right, let's move on to permissive parenting. Permissive
Okay.
parenting. All right, root word of
Word
permissive. What is it?
permission.
Permission. That is permit something to allow. So, all right, give me your definition of a permissive parent.
I first of all look at when they're being permissive, it's usually parents to me that want to be their children's friend. And
Oh,
they allow them to do a lot of things. They don't know how to say no to them. They say yes to everything. They're afraid to raise their voice. They shudder
mhm,
around their children. I think
mhm,
there a lot of disrespect is going on. Because they are allowing them, permitting them to do whatever it is that they're wanting to do.
mhm. That's it. That's it. I always look at it as it relates to fear. In an authoritarian household, it's the kids who are scared, because the parents, are
Right? It's
throwing
the
the hammer
parent.
down. And
Yeah.
in a permissive households, it's the parents who are scared because they don't want to deal with the confrontation or the pushback of any boundaries that they set. They don't want to deal with the wrath of the child, so they just tend to give in, and that's not healthy either.
I remember talking to a parent in one of the classes, and she had a very, very long driveway, and
Mhm,
the mailbox was at the end. And so she had two children, and she would want them to go get the mail out of the mailbox.
mhm.
And but she was afraid to ask them because they would yell at her that she should have gotten the mail herself when she was driving in. She should have gotten it, and she would shudder and quiver to ask them to go get
Oh,
the mail or to get the newspaper.
wow. And so
Mm.
how did you counsel her?
Well, with my child development hat on, um, I for me, everything's a conversation. Everything's a
Mhm,
conversation. And so for me, I always want to sit down and explain to children why this should
mhm,
occur and why this shouldn't occur. And in this case, to also, everybody has a role and a responsibility in the household so that we can keep this household running. So if we need to
mhm.
talk about a division of chores, then let's sit down and talk about it. And this will be one of your chores.
Okay. All right. I completely agree. That's exactly how it would have played out. Because I totally dig the analytical thinking on the part of the child. Yes, you have a good process, and that would have been great if I would have thought of doing that
Mhm.
when coming in. From a time management perspective, you know what? That's efficient. I love the way you think, but that's not what's happened. Okay,
Right,
so now we need to be flexible and we need to still get it done. And we need to do it this way, which means you need to go and get it. But I appreciate, that's it. I appreciate the thought process. But bottom line is we need to get it done. And
right,
you need to do that. But thank
right,
you. That's cool. When you're
right.
running your own company someday, dog.
She was She was afraid. She was afraid she was being permissive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's deep. Okay, so the final one, of course, is authoritative parenting. That is what we call effective parenting, authoritative. Now, once again, we see the root word is authority. So again, it's there, but it's not authoritarian, which is throw the hammer down. It's
Mhm.
authoritative,
Right,
which is guiding and directing and teaching, as you said. You
right,
know, having conversations, uh, and I think probably one of the most important distinctions here is that there's a wonderful balance between the parent's voice and the child's voice.
right,
There's not equity that's there, that's it. The parent is still
right.
running it, but the child feels valued,
They
you
do. They
know.
feel I think that's key right there. The child feels valued, and
Hmm.
and I like the word when you say effective because sometimes parents get the word authoritarian and authoritative mixed up. And so
Hmm.
when we talk
Hmm.
about effective parenting, that is a balance
Hmm.
between all these parenting styles that we're talking about. And I really like when you say the child feels valued because
Hmm.
in actuality, there's times when parents are wrong and
Hmm.
there's times when parents don't have the full story or they need more information. And
Hmm.
sometimes they're parenting without that. But in the fact that it has the word authority in it, in the final, the parent is the final authority. And
Hmm.
sometimes that comes even if they're right or if they're wrong, the parent is still have the
Hmm.
final. But being valued is important. Being valued, having choices, given a
Indeed,
voice.
indeed. Um, like you talk about parenting contract, and of course that's something that we do
Hmm.
in our class. And I
Hmm.
loved that as the kids got older, in order to make sure that everybody knew the rules of the house. Everybody knew the expectations when it came to
Hmm.
school and
Hmm.
grades and participation in things. Having an actual contract spoke to the
Hmm.
business person in me, the professional
Right,
in me. And so,
right.
um, and it brought clarity again to the kids. And as they got older, they had an opportunity to revisit,
Yes. Yes.
revisit any of
Yes.
those uh, principles, that were a part of the contract. And if they had an issue with anything, whether it was the disciplinary action or the price that had to be paid, the penalty,
Hmm. Hmm.
okay, they were
Hmm.
given the opportunity to make their case, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And I loved it because again, it made them think about it and be able to present their perspectives,
Right.
utilize vocabulary, not just emotion. Okay, utilizing their analytical thinking skills.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
and able to share their perspective, which enabled them to communicate,
Right.
and that's something that
That.
they're going to be able to utilize in whatever setting they're in,
Hmm.
finding their voice. And it was wonderfully, I don't know if the word is exciting, or I don't know, it made me feel great. And it sucked at the same time when they made their case the first time and I had to change a rule.
Or even when they put something in the contract that affects you. It's like, if you have this in the contract for me, then one of the things I'd like to put in there is, if you're going to pick me up, you should be on time, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, so you're checking me, I want to check you too. Um, they have a voice, uh, fair
Okay.
play. They want fair play. Um, they want to
Oh,
be, it's effective parenting here.
that's it.
Okay, you
So
have a point. You have a point.
I love it. But that's when we got to suck it up and say, all right, I see you.
Mhm.
That's all.
Yeah, because we're talking about that right or wrong. Mom, I was expecting you here 30 minutes ago, and you're late. So
All right. Well, yeah, this has been great. I want to let's look at this image. I pulled an image. We show this to the parents who are coming through our class too. And this I love this picture. And I want to hear from you. How, looking at this picture, there's obviously something going on, or a couple of things that need to be addressed from a disciplinary perspective. Right.
mhm.
Um, what is something that you see right away that would probably need to be addressed by the parent figure?
So address right away would be the writing, the coloring
Hmm.
on the wall, and
Hmm.
from the posture and the facial expression of
Hmm.
the green crayon, who is the parent figure, we're definitely, it appears, dealing with an authoritarian parent.
Okay.
And
I I see that. I could see that. I could also see an authoritative parent though, because I see myself being authoritative, but I'd be a little
mhm,
tight when I walked in on that scene.
I can see that. I can see that. They both are authority. They both are authority, yes. And and then we see the blue crayon blaming and tattling,
Mm,
but we also see the blue crayon as lying, because we know the blue crayon did it because the coloring on the wall is blue. And so
mhm,
we're talking about lying here,
mhm,
and
mhm.
we're talking about destruction of property here too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Now I'm not sure I would jump in. I just feel so bad. Look at Little Red's face. Little Red just looks helpless.
Hmm.
Like, here we
Hmm.
go again. Blue
Hmm.
lion on me again. Now let's
Hmm.
see what's gonna happen. He's not even, he's scared, and he can't even be mad at Blue because he's so worried about what's gonna happen. you know,
Yeah,
Blue's lying
yeah,
again.
yeah.
So from a an authoritarian perspective, what do you think is going to go down? How is that authoritarian parent going to handle that?
Well, certainly in this situation, it's very clear that the blue crayon did it because the blue crayon wrote on the wall. However, in real life situations, you don't always know that, except for those kids who tell you, um, "Did you eat the cupcake?" and it's all over their face, and they tell you no, they didn't. But you have to have you have to have a discernment as a parent, and you have to as well know your children,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be able to read facial expressions and body language in order to understand if who's lying and who's not lying. But for me, um, I believe in explanations. I believe in explanations, and so I would give the children, the opportunity to explain and listen to what it was that they had to say. As an authoritative
Tative.
parent, I would
Yes.
be able to I'm going to sit there and listen and hear what it is they have to say and try to explain that. Um, wow, children lie about a lot of things, and it's usually to get themselves out of trouble. Is
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I certainly need to hear what their explanation is and use some discernment. And my thing
I,
would be to explain my thing would be is to explain to my children that lying is bad,
mm-hmm.
but it's the cover up that's even worse for me. And
Mm,
so, I mean, excuse me, what you did was bad, but it's the
mm-hmm.
lying, which is the cover up, which is really bad for me. So I would try to teach my children that we do make mistakes, and sometimes we don't understand. In this case right here, hoping that Blue would admit to it, uh, the consequences, if you want to see it as consequences, which I don't really see it as consequences, but you colored on the wall, so you need to clean that off the wall. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and but now that you lied to me, now that's a bigger problem. That's a bigger problem
Right.
because you lied. Because I need to teach my child that lying is a very bad thing. And that's what I would teach is that the a big way you can get in trouble with me is to lie to me.
Right.
And
Right.
because if I have a 5-year-old lying to me, what's going to happen when they're 15? Um, and the lies just get bigger or more grave. And if you lie to me about this, what else are you lying to me about? So it would just
Right.
be a theme in my house that lying is a big way to get in trouble with me. Now, I don't want you coloring my walls,
Mm-hmm.
but we can work on that too. But I
Right.
definitely,
Right.
absolutely do not want
Right.
you lying to me. That's a big way
Right.
to get in trouble with me. Here, we can work out this coloring. We can clean that off and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Hopefully.
well, that I know we may have to repaint, but that's okay.
Yeah, I
We
need
can
to
do that.
repaint my hair. Right.
Yeah, I had a participant in one of our classes say this. They were like, "Well, if it's an authoritarian parent, eh, they ain't even worried about explanations and everybody getting in trouble. It doesn't even matter. It's like everybody cleaning this up. Everybody's probably getting a whooping. Everybody is getting a
Right.
punishment because
And I
everybody
hear
was
and I
in
hear
this."
lots of parents say that. Everybody
And
gets in trouble. And
right, but
and I don't like that like if I'm working and you
mhm,
have one person in the office that has done something and at the staff meeting everybody gets reprimanded for it. It's like,
right.
don't you just that one person and tell them I didn't do anything wrong. And children feel like that too.
That's it. Um, so that's not healthy again for little red who didn't even do anything. What's going to make him want to do the right thing, or want to, if nobody's going to listen to him, or if nobody's going to cover him, when he does say, well, I didn't do this, he did it. I mean, that was coming up in the discussion of the permissive parent. If a permissive parent walked in on this, okay, more than likely no one would get in trouble.
Trouble.
Okay, the
Right.
permissive parent would probably end up cleaning the
Clean
walls
it
herself,
herself.
or his or himself. Or
Mm-hmm.
if little red said something about, well, Blue lied on me, a permissive parent would of course be like, oh, he was just playing, he didn't mean that.
Right.
Well, and like you were saying, over time, that just builds up because Blue never feels like he's responsible to anybody except
Right.
himself. You know,
Right.
he can get away with whatever he wants. And in a negligent household, well, that just stays on the wall pretty much as art, I guess. I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
even art. It just stays on the wall.
Yes.
There's yeah, no one is really engaging or teaching anything because in a negligent household, the parent is not actively participating in their role as parent, you know. So
Right. It's about teaching
okay,
values, and not lying is a value to be taught. It's
right,
about teaching
right.
house values. Hmm.
Well, that's great because our parent question for the day actually is we got a question that was stating how, well, my 9-year old is having trouble telling the truth. What should I do?
Right. And I think that goes back to, again, of what I just stated earlier, is talking about um, um, teaching values. And one of the values
Hmm.
that you want to teach in your household is that you don't lie. You can start, even though if you hadn't taught that before the child was 9, you can start now and then start
Hmm.
explaining that that's a way that you can get into a lot of trouble with me.
Hmm.
Is to, and then I try to teach some empathy. I'd probably try to do something like give some examples of things that the child relies on me for, and then um, if I didn't do them, how would
Mm.
you feel about that if I lied to you about doing that? So I'm coming home from work and I told you I was going to bring you some cupcakes, and then when you got home, when I got home, I didn't bring the cupcakes, and it's like, oh, I just forgot, or I decided not to. So if you're lying to the child, how would the
Hmm.
child feel about that? And I would just give a lot of what if scenarios that would make it
Oh,
feel like to the child, you can't trust me. So if you're lying, I can't trust you. And
I
I would
see.
talk about trust. You would
I
want me
see.
to trust you. So if you're lying, I can't trust you. And
Right.
I would give examples too of things like, um, you want to go do something, but I'm not sure I can let you do that because the last time you told me you were going over to Nancy's house and you ended up over at a party at Phillips. So that lying, I can't trust you. So no, you can't go to the next party. So you have to have some consequences like that attached to the line.
Right. Right. And, uh, and something else, teaching too. I mean, and you had said this earlier many times. Kids lie because they don't want to get in trouble, but they also lie because they don't want to disappoint you. Sometimes, they know that what they've done is going to disappoint you. And with
Hmm.
that disappointment
Right,
will come some type of punishment or feelings. But what you also have to teach is that disappointment happens, but that doesn't mean my love is going anywhere. I think that's a huge,
right,
huge lesson that folks need to understand. This disappointment will happen. We will be let down. We will let
right,
people down. But in
right,
this case, um, my love's not going anywhere. My support might, which means you ain't going to that party, and I ain't taking you over there. I know that's it. But
exactly,
my love is not
exactly.
going anywhere. So
Hmm.
don't think that you're trying to protect our relationship by lying and keeping things, because it can hurt our relationship when there's a breach of trust, you know.
Right,
So
right.
all right, very, very good. Well, thank you so much, Miss Jackie, for your time again. As always, it's a pleasure engaging with you. All right,
You're
and I'll
welcome.
be calling you. I'll be calling you again.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching ReGen Talks. Whether it's family or friendships or romance, if healthy relationships are important to you, like and subscribe to our channel. You can also connect with us on Instagram at regeneration_next and on Facebook at ReGenNext. Or you can visit our website at regennext.com. We'd love to hear from you because what you think matters.